what would you say if I said that I could bring them back?
I guess I'd say I never thought of that.
Well, alright, hold tight, you might want to stand back because one small John is coming intact.
St. John forward, spitting out some more words, fully intact, jacked, ready to rap and attack. Small John on your lawn, living like a gnome, hit you with my lyrics like a bullet to your dome.
Tonight when he comes up here, he's either gonna kill or he's gonna suck. But there's no in between for Mr. John Forward.
Oh, well, I didn't know any of that.
Well, that's what I've been trying to say the whole time.
Welcome to St. John Forward Radio. I can't hear my own voice. I need to turn up the cans. There it is. The sultry tones of John Forward. I love it. You love it. That's why you're listening to it. I'm here live every Monday night from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock here on local FM. Sometimes it's pre-recorded, but we'll pretend that's not the case. If you don't know, I'm a big hotshot comedian here in St. John, New Brunswick. I just came off a St. John comedy hat trick weekend, 3 shows in a row. Didn't even need to leave my town. That's pretty impressive for St. John, New Brunswick. Last night I did a set at Sunday After Dark at McGill's, and it was a fun time. Decent turnout, and yeah, it was a fun show. There were some loudmouths that popped in towards the end of it that I never got to make fun of, but that's my only regret. I dusted off an old bit that I've done like once or twice that I'm not entirely comfortable with. It's a little dicey. It's touchy subject matter. I've rearranged it a little bit, but I'm happy with how it went last night, and it'll probably do better if I'm not reading it directly off of a tablet on a show. So anyway, I think I've got everything in the right order, so I'll maybe memorize it next time for your pleasure. Saturday night, fun moment in St. John comedy history. We had No Jokes Barred in a parking lot, and that was a fun time too. The weather cooperated. I think according to the weather app on my phone, the lowest it got was -2, so that's not too bad for late November parking lot comedy show. Got that on video, which has been sent to me, but I have not uploaded it yet. But that should be up in the next couple of days, hopefully probably tomorrow on Tuesday, so before the podcast. So I can put a link to it in the show notes, but that's going to be up. Not a huge turnout, but we had enough people for a fun time. Good crowd of No Jokes Barred regulars. There was a couple of other shows going on in Fredericton and Moncton that night, so not everybody that wanted to come out could make it out. There's a couple of people that were probably just staying home, not supporting their scene, but who cares? Well, I care, but we're not going to dwell on it. Friday night did the big comedy Off the Falls show at the Reversing Falls restaurant that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, with its controversial $75 price point for dinner and a show. Most of the controversy was about who was booked on it. Not the most experienced group of comedians, and there was a whole lot of shit talking from other comics about how people were going to pay $75 to see a bunch of amateurs bomb, and they would never come to another comedy show again. But I'm happy to report that nobody bombed. Everybody did well, some better than others, but it's the show's mere existence did not bring about the comedy apocalypse as many feared. But I don't think anybody who attended the show, customer-wise, walked away disappointed. Everybody enjoyed their meals and the comedy. The most disappointed people of the evening were probably the comedians. Mostly speaking for myself. I don't want to talk out of school, but It was a small conference room, and they sold. I think it was sold out. I think there might have been a couple of open seats, but there was minimum 20 people, as many as 25. It's a small room, but each of them paid $75 for a show and a 3-course meal. The night before on Thursday, I sent a message out to Mandy Lynn Donovan and asked, hey, so what's the pay going to be for this thing? Or, well, first I asked if I was going to be fed, which I assumed, but I wanted to ask. And yes, you get a 3-course meal along with everybody else. And I said, okay, what do we get paid on top of that? And it was an insulting $20, which is less than I thought that it would be doing a fancy pants show that costs $75 each. So yeah, $20 even with a 3-course meal and a free drink was pretty insulting, but I had committed to the show and I wasn't going to back out at the last minute. It's my problem for not asking for this information up front. And, I definitely didn't want to back out knowing that my presence might be the only thing holding off the end times, being the most experienced comedian on the lineup. But the indignities started almost immediately. First off, there was no table for us to sit at because they sold all of the seats, which meant that we would be eating our fancy dinners on plates in our laps while sitting on a bench at the back of the room. So that was strike one. Next one, they start passing out the hors d'oeuvres, and none of them were offered to us. We're like, oh, that's interesting. I could have gone for a little bruschetta or whatever smoked salmon on a cracker business that was happening. But nope, I stole one off the table when they set the tray down after handing them out. But, the people in the audience, they were coming up for seconds, and we're standing there hors d'oeuvre-less. Just, yeah, you have some more. We're just the whole reason that you're here. And then, so I stole one, and I scarfed it down when nobody was looking. And then we had Mandy Lynn came up and briefly, and then introduced Drake, who started throwing down many F-bombs right out the gate, which I was going to take a more measured approach, but they seemed to like it. Drake did really well, actually, surprisingly. Nah, I don't want to talk smack. I've seen Drake. Drake can do well. Unfortunately, he's quitting comedy, which he told me is he's getting into the details tonight on the Sploodcast, so you can listen to that. So then the meal comes out. Show grinds to a halt. There is nothing going on. I would have thought the Music Man would have been playing while the meal was happening, but he had another gig, so he had to leave. He played before, so there was just silence during the meal. And then I wanted to go up like when the food was done, so I went up first after the break. Then I had a really fun set. I enjoyed myself thoroughly while I was on the stage. There was a couple of chatty Cathys, but I dealt with them pretty well, I thought. And then the show continued on. The desserts start coming out, and no desserts were coming our way, and I was full. I had a decent meal that I swiped a stool and put that in front of me as a table, so I didn't have to eat in my lap like some sort of peasant. But they're sending out their little lava cakes or whatever it was. None of them coming to us, and I kind of nudged Mandy Lynn. I'm like, hey, I'm full anyway, but no dessert for us, really? And she's like, I don't know. And then I saw her ask the person that was running the show, and I'm like, do we get dessert? And she's like, no, just the main course. I'm like, okay. Guess it would have broke the bank to make an extra 5 lava cakes for a restaurant that's already making a batch of lava cakes. So that's how it went. They wanted to, Ian Esty closed it out. Again, I'm going to hold comment. He did well. People enjoyed him. But they wanted to interrupt the middle of his set to go up and announce last call for alcohol, which good for you, Mandy Lynn, for saying no, that's not cool. We can't just go up in the middle of his set and interrupt him. So yeah, that was super sketchy. That's that's the most egregious, greedy venue experience that I've been privy to in recent memory. I do have friends who have traveled out of town to do shows in places that have been full of paying customers who paid either tickets or cover charge to get in, and they didn't get a dime for it. I don't know. I find it really hard to believe that that margins are so thin that even a packed house doesn't leave enough money on the table to pay the comedians a reasonable amount of money. I mean, we're nobody's in this to get rich, but the rest of the staff working in these places is at least making minimum wage plus tips, which is more than we often get, and not to mention all of the unpaid practice-y work that needs to happen beforehand. But you know, the performers are the attraction, luring in those paying customers, and I feel like we should be taken care of pretty well. We should get 3 out of 3 courses. We should have a table. We should get paid at least gas money if we're coming from out of town, unless it's an open mic and there's no real revenue being generated. But if somebody's making some money, then it should be spread around. And you know, I'm not innocent myself, but with stuff like this going on, I think we need to stop smack talking other comedians. It's one thing to talk about somebody who's behaving badly, but I don't think it's good for anybody, especially publicly, to be talking about who sucks and who doesn't deserve to be booked on a show that they're already booked on. You know, we should be doing what we can to help these people get better and encourage them. Like, hey, come out to... And I haven't been the best at that, just because there's usually a backlog of people that I've got lined up on No Jokes Barred, so I generally don't need to go chasing people down, but maybe I should make more of an effort. And if somebody doesn't like how a show is booked, then that person should put on a better show with a better lineup and stop whining about it. I mean... I removed myself from a group chat with a bunch of comics that's been running for 2 years now, and there's lots of smack talking, and it's getting kind of toxic. So I turned off notifications a couple of months ago, so at least my phone wouldn't buzz every time somebody said something, which was better, but I still get sucked in and catch up on everything, and rarely felt good about it. But you know, when it started, there was people that needed to be trash talked, but the big bads have been mostly rendered irrelevant, and now it's kind of turned cannibalistic, and we're talking smack about other comics who never did anything to hurt anyone, and there's more deserving targets, and I think we should have some more solidarity. Like when Yuck Yucks was threatening to block people from guest spots for doing other shows, we stuck together, and that problem took care of itself. When Shane freaked out about Hard Times showing the premiere at Chuckles, then we stuck together and we pushed back, and he came around. When Mr. Vancouver and his crowd were being the way they were being, we mostly just quarantined the problem, and it took care of themselves. They started fighting with each other when they ran out of other people to fight with, and I think we need to stop being Darrens. Let's not do the same thing, guys and girls. And Brian Godsoe, who's sitting across from me.
I just I had this picture of like basically the way they were running things at the revolving restaurant. Like you guys are all like gladiators. They just shoved you in like a dusty cave and just threw you table scraps. Go,
pretty much.
Be happy with what you got. Go out there, fight to the death.
Yeah, and you know, maybe if like nobody wants to be the one person to complain about it, because there's still a ton of comedians that would be more than happy to do it for nothing.
They'll just sell you to another restaurant is what they'll do.
Yeah, we need to unionize. No, I don't know. I don't think we've got the wherewithal to get that together. And there's always going to be scabs crossing the picket line. But I don't know. We pulled it together for the Yuck Yucks thing. I think we could do it again. But I don't know. So Brian Godsoe is one half of tonight's guest. Arif Hussain is allegedly on his way, so he'll be joining us in a little while. But gonna take a music break now. But you know, just To summarize, I think if people nobody's trying to get rich doing comedy, but I think if people are being charged to come watch a comedy show, the comics should be paid fairly, and we don't have to let people take advantage of us.
I'm gonna get rich or die trying, John.
Well, you're gonna die of a litany of things anyway. So you got.
What are you trying to say?
That you live hard and you're gonna die hard. Is that an expression? I don't know.
That's
wait.
a
What's
movie.
the name of the fourth? Live? No, is it Live
Die
Free?
Hard.
Yeah. Okay. It's not. I said live hard, not live free. So it's a whole new thing.
Definitely don't live free.
But anyway, but yeah. So we don't have to play that game. But if we start turning on each other, it's just gonna not be fun anymore, which is even worse than losing out on the money. And I don't know. I think the more that we get into this toxic trash talking thing, which again I'm guilty of myself as much as anybody, but I'm trying to be better. But there's just going to be more people who are going to quit comedy or not bother trying because they see what a cesspool it can be and how we all get into fights with each other, and that's not very welcoming. And every one person that quits or never starts is one less reason for that person's whole circle of family and friends and coworkers to come out do a show. And we need as many people on comedy team as we can get. So, but the main thing, let's have fun. It's not fun to trash talk people that never hurt anybody. Let's trash talk the people that deserve it.
One time circling the block, little buddy got murdered on the flat. 2 times, you know how he rock. You know who he knocked on, you know who he shot. You know how he come for nothing I got. Christian Dior, I'm crippin' Dior. Made the let him miss in the door. Gave a little money to me, now I want more. Don't be looking funny when we come up in the store. My black is beautiful, but I still shoot at you, dog. Tupac, death tails off. Watch out for the niggas in the lake with more. Bitch, you touch, no boo brunch, no big chains, no blue chucks, just big things. Cuz gon' bust, cuz short bust, but we ain't on one. We just wanna have fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. Fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing, and we don't give a fuck about nothing. We just wanna have fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. Fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing, and we don't give a fuck about nothing. We just wanna have fun. Yeah, I'm so nerfy, my logs go viral for me, right slow. Hopped out there, I think I know why he no like me. He broke, we know, sitch, he told, he yo, prince. Black and white like old flicks, we blame me, dance like gold. This I know this, give me all the money in my hand. Type of money, pop a rubber band. Miss with the glitz and the glam. Fried catfish at the Ritz in Japan, yeah. Kicking, baby, tell me when to go.
Tell me when to go.
Tweaking, I'ma leave him on the floor.
Leave him on the floor.
Ricky in the alley, out of yo. But we don't want to smoke, we just wanna have fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. Fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing, and we don't give a fuck about nothing. We just wanna have fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. We don't wanna fuck up nothing. Fun. We don't wanna fuck up nothing, and we don't give a fuck about nothing. We just wanna have fun.
Knock a bitch down, knock a bitch down. 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 We don't need no suckers in this bitch, we just wanna have fun. What's it? We don't need no suckers in this bitch, we just wanna have fun. What's it? Knock a bitch down, knock a bitch down. 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 We don't need no suckers in this bitch, we just wanna have fun. What's it? We don't need no suckers in this bitch, we just wanna have fun. What's it?
F-57, get down on a nigga. F-57, send him hell, not heaven.
We're back with a full roster of guests. The aforementioned Brian Godsoe is still here, but we are also joined by Arif Hussain. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you, John. I'm okay.
I went extra long on the monologue just to accommodate you.
I heard that you got treated like the lower caste people in the Indian caste system at the Reversing Falls restaurant.
Yep.
Hey, it's Monkey. No, he was like like there was the organ grinder, and then he was the monkey that.
I was the handle on the organ.
you were taking like quarters out of people's pockets and shit. Like
You really got you got treated like you were just Russian animals in a circus.
Oh, what if like that hors d'oeuvre that he grabbed had like poison in it, and like someone else went to grab one and they clutched their hand? John's like dead on the table. Bad dates.
They bring out all of the comedians with just like chain links in their noses. Yeah, yeah.
Mark Splood shows up with a sword, just like whoa! And he just gets shot by Drake Tobias.
One by.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the $20 thing is insulting enough, but to like skimp on the meal that they were already making, it's just rubbing salt in the wounds.
I like that John got an indication of his lowly station in life from the absence of lava cake in his in his diet.
So like
Wait a minute.
You mean I'm only getting chicken supreme?
Yes, I did get the chicken. When they asked us which of the two items we liked, I said, which one is easier to eat in a plate on your lap?
Oh, that's a nice little bitchy thing to say. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You got it in,
brutal.
though, man. That's called crowd work.
Yeah.
Chicken supreme.
Well, that
for the
was
homeless
to one of
guy.
the waitresses who was.
Oh,
not-
so she deserved it then. Exactly.
I didn't say it snarkily.
And then you
I said it
smacked her on the
whimsically.
ass.
You 100% said it snarkily.
Well, I deserved a little snark.
Yeah.
I was the big time. That's why everybody was there to see me. This one old couple said, "You should have been the headliner. You were the best one."
That's right.
Oh dear.
And then she's like, honey, where are we? Baby, I think I wear a nom again. She's just having flashbacks.
How come John never comes to visit anymore? When are you going back to the States?
You're my favorite grandson. What?
Can you take me home? I don't know how I got here.
The Admiral Beatty's closing down. I don't know what I'll do with myself.
Just take me down to the Woolworths. I need to get another bag for 25
Did I already
cents.
tell you guys this story?
No.
It's a word for word recreation of the whole conversation. That's impressive.
I mean, I find out new things about John's past, like small snippets of John's past.
What is the most
That-
surprising past John event that you've heard about?
Well, my favorite story of, this my friendship with John comes through unlikely sources from a guy from the guy who I used to do a podcast with.
Okay.
Well, no,
His
we
name's
knew each
Jason.
other before I made the connection. I think I came and did your
was it?
radio show here and was like, afterwards, I was like, hey, that's the guy.
Finally, secrets are revealed.
So this is my favorite story of like this. Jason carried this with him for the longest time, right?
Yeah.
And
Have you guys ever had the conversation about it?
yes, we have.
Oh, I'm curious.
Yeah. So a long time ago, this is a sort of real Cain and Abel story. Jason and John, just the best of friends.
Right.
Just the
Most
best.
of junior high.
Can I guess before we get into it? John killed a guy, right? Like
Huh?
that's John murdered a man.
No, this is not on John. As much as I'd like to
I'm
have,
the hero of the story.
he's actually the hero of the. Unfortunately, it's
Jason killed a guy?
Yeah, that
He killed my soul and self-esteem.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a beautiful story. There are two stories that explains why John's a comedian. One is this story, and there's another story.
Well, on
as
a
well.
scale from Raising Arizona to Brokeback Mountain,
This is
where does this story fall?
honestly, I feel like this is more Clueless and Mean Girls than it is any of those things. So they're best of friends. They share videotapes of comedy shows that they mostly John. This is the Dana Carvey show. When the Dana Carvey show came out,
Right.
John and Jason were one of the few people who actually tape episodes, and John would send them to Jason.
Right.
And it was this sort of cult thing, this sort of cult secret that they both shared with each
Yeah,
other.
Me and him, when I was 13, we were very proud of ourselves for sneaking into our first rated 14 movie. We went to see
Oh.
Bad Boys. And we weren't old enough to be there at all.
And their lives took different paths. You know, Jason would,
Well, a little bit of extra backstory you might not know is my whole crew of friends that I hung out with in junior high. All of them went to St. Max for high school, and I was the only one of the group that went to St. John High. Which
what a useless detail. Why did you add that?
I'm glad we got
the
that
preface
part of
to
the
where you're
backstory.
going with this. I'm setting it up. So for the first couple of weeks at school, I'm not much of a social butterfly. So I spent a lot of time sitting in a hallway by myself at lunchtime.
Okay.
I spent a couple of lunches just sitting on the top floor of the parking garage alone, where nobody would see me being alone. And
I used to cry while I ate my lunch in the bathroom.
I did. No, I don't think so. One time I did pee in a bottle and drop it onto a car by myself.
For no reason.
No, there it is. For no reason.
Damn it. It's a parade of mental illness.
So after about a week of just extreme loneliness, one of my friends, not Jason, but one of the group calls me up and like, "Hey, how's it going, buddy? And we should meet up for lunch." I'll let you take it from here.
So at this point, I'm going to relate what Jason's side of this whole thing is. So Jason is caught between this very, according to him, as a 14-year-old boy who just wants to fit in,
Right.
and this, his darker side, the id, which essentially John represents, which is this sort of seedy underbelly. Imagine Jake LaMotta
So they both-
mixed in with Travis Bickle, sort of that side.
So they both threw pee bottles at cars?
That's right. No. So Jason was stuck in between. He's like, who do I want to be with the cool kids and, just be able to,
there were no cool kids on either side of the fence, to be fair.
In retrospect, that's what he eventually told. I mean, if you put a young Jason and a young John together in front, I imagine they would look exactly like each other. They're both gingers too. They're just indistinguishable from each other. I imagine
we
Jason
played a lot of magic cards.
Oh boy, you didn't tell me about the magic cards. And so
Magic the Gathering.
Hey girls, do you like Magic the Gathering?
Yeah, Jason.
No, okay, I'll go over here.
Jason thought that he was on the fast track to losing his virginity, unfortunately. And
Once I get that mana drain, it's gonna be all over.
so he tells, John, so his friends ask John to meet them at the Brunswick Square food court.
Okay.
And Jason's like, sure, all right. And so they tell John that they were going to meet at the Brunswick Square food court. And now the details, you correct me, John, if I'm wrong, are a little hazy. So I can only tell you from Jason's side what happened on his side. He told me they thought that it would be really funny if they invite, like, this is just one of the saddest damn thing. It's just so brutal, dude. So they thought that it would be funny if they invited him to the food court and they didn't show up and they would just watch him from the second floor. And is this part correct, or am I wrong?
Well, I don't know what their intentions were, but
that's what he told me.
Well, is that the end of what he told you?
Well, he told me that then he had never forgiven himself for what had happened at that point.
It's worse than that.
Did they play Mad World on a boombox when you walked in?
I was downstairs in the food court, and I saw them upstairs. And I was like, oh, hey, guys. And I started coming up the escalator. So then they went down the elevator. And then when I went down, they went up. And this happened like 2 or 3 floors worth. And then I just left.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
You got to ride the escalator all day? That sounds great.
That's really where John's comedy begins. Jan's ambition of his ambitions of comedy is just a missed meeting between friends, and mine begins with cystic acne.
It wasn't just a silent, oh, there he is, isn't that funny? They knew that I was like, hey, guys, and then I start coming up to meet them, and then they, like, go down, and then, yeah. So there's an extra layer of insidiousness to
Oh,
it.
it is. That's brutal. I mean, that explains it, and that really explains why you didn't get lava cake at the.
That's true. And an extra layer to the conspiracy that I'll add in now.
Oh no, the Illuminati.
It's coming around full circle. The main guy in that group that I suspect was the main. Now everybody kind of turned against me. Jason more reluctantly than everyone else. I feel anyway, because we were closer. The son of the owner of the R Bar was the lead instigator of that. Because we had a falling out, and we actually got into a fist fight at school. So then from there, he'd kind of turned all of my friends against me. And now, all these years later, he made his dad cancel the No Jokes part at the R Bar just to stick it to me.
It all comes full circle, isn't it?
I knew it all along. I was telling you.
I'm not a big thing of the whole Freudian sort of trauma analysis, psychoanalysis of sort of comics, but I feel in my head, I feel like this is the real story.
Is that my origin story? Is that like the pre-credits boring part of the Marvel movie of John Forward's life?
Yeah, it's the Batman Begins. Yeah, this is the equivalent of you going through the Alps and training with Ra's al Ghul.
Just hanging with Liam Neeson.
That's right. It's kind of Liam Neeson. He's just going up and down the Brunswick Square food court.
It's your fault your father died.
Mine was when my girlfriend, my heavy-chested girlfriend, I found out on the last day of school that she was fooling around with my best friend. And we didn't have a yearbook, and so we had this tradition where we would just sign each other's shirts.
Okay.
And it's the day that I found out, and she, for some reason, on the back of my shirt,
write, "I'm fucking your best friend" on your shirt?
No, she said it was it was supposed to be a joke. Like they would write things about you on the back of your shirt, so you wouldn't know, and then you'd go home because we had to wear a uniform, right?
She just wrote like "cuck" in big block letters.
No, she just wrote "I'm a sex pervert." And then I found out, and that's when I started doing jokes about her big boobs to my friends, and they all started like I just started telling accurate facts about what I mean. I think that's there's a word for that, I'm sure there's some sort of toxic masculinity, some sort of thing like that. But
sadness.
Yeah. No. I got a lot of joy from
Schadenfreude. Then.
Schadenfreude. Yeah. That. Do you have an origin story, Brian?
Well, let's let's take a quick musical break, and let's set up your song, and then we'll give you some thought to think about your sad comedy origin story.
I heard the song on.
It began in a drive-through.
It's Agent Orange, I Kill Spies. It's a good song.
Apologize for being late, John.
That's fine.
And I'm sorry Arif was late.
I forgive Arif, but not you, Brian.
Be Me Kids is an exciting non-profit free program that provides opportunities for at-risk kids in St. John. The program levels the playing field for less fortunate children by helping them develop through crafts, games, and social activities, and the world-renowned PATHS program. It operates every Saturday at 4 locations from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For more information about Be Me Kids, or to register your child today, call 506-654-0064. Or visit their website at bemekids.com.
Nailed it.
Terrifying.
Nailed it.
Terrifying.
Nailed it.
Terrifying.
You're listening to 107.3 St. John Forward Radio.
Creepier.
Hi, you're listening to 107.3 St. John Forward Radio.
Nailed it.
Terrifying.
You've never seen my face before. You will not recognize my voice. I am the perfect law to end these wicked crimes. I am a man without a time when I believed anything could happen at any time. I've been waiting for this moment all my life, and now at last the pleasure's mine. I kill spies. 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 I kill spies.
We all kill spies a little bit.
Correct.
So, Brian, do you have a shameful origin story, or should we talk about what we were talking about off mic, or what?
Well, I guess if I have an origin story, because I almost
dig into the trauma.
I almost,
Brian, please.
It's actually really kind of pathetic, and I did make a bit out of it, but I almost one of the first times I just went to go hang out in Toronto, because we go like every other year with my dad. I had an experience at Canada's Wonderland where I was too fat to be seated in a roller coaster.
So that's when it started, you think?
That's when I decided to go out and do it, because I wanted to give it a try, and like immediately I wrote a bit. Wasn't very good. I'm glad I didn't perform it that night, but I started looking up open mics, and it was on a Sunday, and there was nothing going on in Toronto. And then the divorce happened, and I decided to give it a real go.
Well, the thing with my friends in high school, that's probably in the mix, but like really, and I have a bit about it too. Like the thing, my deep shame at using my dead mom's porno tape was that was the first bit that I wrote where I was like, oh, I feel so ashamed of this, and then I told May about it, and she laughed. I'm like, oh, okay. That's how this can work. I can just deflect everything that's wrong to me. If I get a laugh, then I don't need to feel bad about it or fix myself.
I'll just open up my wounds, and they're so pathetic that everyone will enjoy themselves except me.
Yeah, that's basically my bio.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of that sort of therapy model really, this kind of therapy model for comedy really works for me. At some, I mean, I find it sort of ridiculous at the idea, it's like, why the hell do you keep you're just dirty? All you say is dirty things.
Well, that's just what you're interested in.
Of course, yes. I mean, if you wanted,
interested in dirty things,
of course, 100%,
like buttholes.
That's right. This is the comedy duo of the city, man. This is the Bush and Cheney, the
Bush and Cheney.
That's right, the Laurel and Hardy, the Amy Schumer and bad comedy specials of
Herv's leather special coming soon.
The great comedy duo. No, it's I don't know how much of this sort of therapy model is like, what is the because everyone's like, oh, what is the trauma? Like dig in deep. I mean, if you wanted a story, I'm sure you could come up with one.
Yeah.
But it's not interesting to me. I mean, just sort of.
Yeah, well, with me, like I've said the therapy thing, and I think on some level it's true, but mostly just, I don't know, my shame is my muse more than anything, more than it's like making myself feel better about it. I think really, I think it's mostly just plumbing the depths, and here's a thing that I know well, and I can describe, I can kind of paint a picture with it, and I feel like even if the specific thing I'm talking about isn't relatable, I think me saying the horrible thing that I did or said or thought, everybody has their own version of that, and I think, I don't know, that's the connection that I'm
John kills
seeking.
A confession. Forgive me, Lord, for I have made you laugh.
I have, the added shame to that story about my ex is also, it's on that day that I, for some reason, decided to start smoking. Because I thought, I was like, if she thought me, because I was a sort of a small kid, big ears, cystic acne. So I thought, if I added a smoking element on top of it, perhaps it would make me a little bit more dangerous.
So you're an Indian John Cusack. I got it figured out. You're sitting there chasing a girl. You're picking up smoking to impress her. Always see you out in the rain for some
100%.
reason.
Did she smoke?
She did not. No, she did. She did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she did.
So
yeah.
did you? So it wasn't like a peer pressure thing.
No. Well, no. I had peers who smoked, but
I never really had that. None of my friends, like Jason and them, none of them smoked.
No.
At the time, so I never really had friends that until I got to university when all of my friends smoked. But I don't know. Brian, did you ever get peer pressure to smoke cigarettes?
Yeah, and I found it to be a relaxing thing, and I smoked, and then one day it made me sick, so I stopped.
Yeah, I wasn't cool enough to have smoking friends, I guess. But like when I started going to school in Fredericton in my third year, all of my friends smoked, and I would take one every now and then while we were drinking, but pretty much every time it would make me sick. And also my mom smoked, and it was always just a gross, like she'd always be coughing all the time, and it just, I don't know.
Up until 5 years ago in Dubai, they still used to have big billboards, and like the Marlboro Man was still a thing in Dubai. I mean, I can't imagine the Marlboro Man doing like vaping commercials. I mean, if the Marlboro Man would see someone vaping, I imagine he'd just swan dive into a stampede of herding of buffalo.
Hey there, Raj, partner. You ought to reach for a Marlboro. It'll make you feel like you're in the middle of an American desert.
Look, you're a partner. It looks... seems to me, I reckon my time has come. Our time has come, and it is time to end this cowboy life.
Why don't you put down that there snake charming fluid and pick up a Marlboro cigarette?
Put down that vaping robot penis and pick up this here tube of battery acid.
Hey there, partner. You're probably getting all stressed out from working 24 hours at the call center. Why not have yourself a nice drag off of Marlboro king size?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I did go through my pipe tobacco phase a couple of times. You guys were aware of that.
Oh, I mean, that's always fun to watch John with his little corn pipe outside of the
he's
chuckles.
He's gonna solve a mystery.
that I enjoyed.
The game is afoot, fellas.
That was relaxing, and
what do we have here?
It didn't seem as gross as cigarettes. It didn't taste as bad as a cigarette. I probably stunk though, but I started doing that the first time that I quit smoking weed, like in between teaching and working at JDI, and I just wanted to smoke something. So yeah, that's when that started, and it's enough of a little bit of a buzz that it was a decent substitute. But yeah, I haven't. When my book bag got stolen outside of O'Leary's back in August, I just never my wood pipe was in there in my little tobacco pouch. I never bothered replacing it, especially having like when I quit smoking weed.
I didn't
want to replace weed with tobacco because that would be bad.
I bet if you looked at a dumpster a block away, you could have found it again.
Oh, I looked around. I went back the next day and scoured like the block in the parking lot next to it. I lost a bunch of stuff.
I feel like these are treacherous times to be having this kind of conversation in this radio. So I feel like we should give a disclaimer to all of the kids. Please do not take our bad behaviors as indication as a warrant to do these things. Please do not smoke. Please do not vape. Pick up huffing gas, please. Just go into a car.
Well, to be fair, once I was smoking my tobacco pipe outside the Wilsers room, and
someone got murdered.
Some cute girl came up to me and said, "You look like my grampy." And I said, "That's not the look I was going for." And then she added,
"Can you tell me where my mommy is?"
But I said, "That's not the look I'm going for." And then she added,
funny drinks.
"A sexy grampy." I'm like, okay.
What? Sexy.
How come no one ever calls me a sexy grampy?
Because you don't look like one. You look like a.
Grampy's going on dialysis.
You look like.
You look like you're in a remake of the movie Big, where you're just a child that all of a sudden got old but is still wearing the same outfit.
I'm going for like a young Wilford Brimley, maybe like, well, you could still go on Colonial Penn if you got the diabetes.
You look like the old WWF tag team, the Natural Disasters. all into one
Both of
person.
them?
Yeah, you're like typhoon and hurricane, both in one person. Earthquake and hurricane.
I prefer to think of myself as a
earthquake and typhoon.
Prefer to think of myself as a fat hacksaw Jim Duggan. Oh,
God damn. Yeah, there's a little bit too much of. Someone made the analogy. I don't know who it was recently that said that all of stand-up is basically, it's at some level just pro wrestling, and anyone who has. And I can't.
Well, the roast battle certainly is the most extreme version of that.
And that is a humiliating but accurate comparison, I feel.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
What, pro wrestling? I'm a grown-ass man.
Well, there's not all stand-up comedy, but I think there are some kinds of, I don't know, some versions of stand-up comedy that's, I don't know. I think that they go hand in hand. It's not exactly the same thing, but I don't know. I think we're closer to pro wrestling than the next, I guess the next area that we'd be adjacent to would be like music. I think we're closer to pro wrestling than music.
It's like cosplay. The whole thing is cosplay.
yeah, pro wrestling is essentially like anime or like superhero.
Well,
It's
to varying
juvenile.
to
All
varying
of stand-up
degrees.
is juvenile.
But I
and
love
stupid.
anime.
I think it makes sense. I think comedians tend to either adopt the kind of baby face or the heel kind of persona.
Yeah.
We're putting on a costume a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling May that we're really essentially all of comedy just we're just edgelords, really. You know, I don't think of myself as anything other than an internet troll.
Well, unless
really,
you're an
at this
ally
point.
like me.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that was the most repulsive thing last night.
Do you not get the joke that I threw that in the middle of that bit that was...
That's my trigger word. As soon as I hear ally, I want to tweet Richard Spencer.
Doesn't matter the context about it. Doesn't matter all of the stuff, the sandwich in between the gay and the trans stuff that I was talking about.
I don't.
That one sentence sets Arif off into a rage.
I think John's more of a nice guy than an ally. Like he's
a rotten human being.
He's like following everything up with a silent milady.
I'm a social justice pacifist.
One more time, if you use that damn line, I'm gonna start
brilliant.
asleep.
Sometimes somebody is going to laugh at it.
A social justice conscientious objector.
Yeah.
So did you watch that video of
I don't want to have to Antifa.
that clip of that Red Dead Redemption thing where that guy is
or they punch out the suffragette? I have heard about it, about how problematic it is.
Oh, sorry,
and how
you disapprove.
This is
Sorry,
endemic
we are
of the internet
disapproving.
troll culture. I have not watched it. I get what it is.
That's pretty much why I want to buy the game, really. But
that is his entire.
like that sold me a copy.
Brian just wants to make an entire game based on that.
Why are you going to waste your time sitting at home playing a video game when you can go punch a suffragette out in the real world?
Because I can't.
hilarious.
They told me I couldn't do that anymore.
I love the idea that like, so it was like, wow, it's really accurate. It's like history,
Just
who's
nailing
watching?
a suffragette.
Who's playing a video game to learn about history?
What
about
Ken Burns documentary has like someone just wailing on a suffragette?
Ken Burns Red Dead Redemption.
Well, and I've heard the conversations like, did they go out of their way to make her kind of annoying to encourage this kind of behavior in the player and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. Like obviously, but and they said the same thing on the Legion of Skanks podcast. But like, you could go and shoot somebody else in the head in the game and nobody would care. But
I rolled into town because the mission I just did failed and I needed something to do. So I saw
some
a
of the suffragettes
suffragette,
were crazy. I mean,
and I nailed her in the face.
Look up the history of Carrie Nation.
Arthur Morgan, 1899.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it's just any kind of freedom to do something ridiculous in a video game it's juvenile.
Well, this
but
is
we
like
laugh.
the GTA 5 thing all over again. Because remember when everyone was making a big deal that you could just walk up and cold cock anybody and you do that like 2-step one?
Well, even to go back further, like Earthbound on Super Nintendo, you could pick the names of the characters and everybody is like, this character's name is Penis.
Oh, dude, do you remember this? When I was very young,
I remember when you were very young.
But when I was very, I don't know, you probably remember this, but
1,000 years ago.
Honestly, 6 hours on. The only reason I bought Leisure Suit Larry was so that I could have sex with a prostitute in it. I could not figure for the life of me try to figure. It was a 10-second little cheat thing that you could do where you could have sex with a prostitute.
I've played Leisure Suit Larry. I don't think I had sex with the prostitute.
You got to get the condom, or else you go multicolored and then die.
Cheat code or something like that. You have to do that.
I don't. It was like built. I don't think I went out.
I just
bought
beat
it.
off just walking around.
My dad just had a computer that had a bunch of
graphics.
games on it, and that was one of them. And I don't think I really entirely understood what was going on with it.
I think it's pretty funny, like little Arif like beating off in front of the family computer, to, like 8-bit graphics, just like little like squares. They're nipples.
Well, even going back as far as like Metroid, like if you get 100% or you beat the game in a certain amount of time, you get to see Samus like take the suit off and she's in a bikini or something. Or am I mixing two things together? Is that a thing?
No, you're accurate.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
The video game with the opening credits to Baywatch, I think.
Yeah. So there's always just gonna be silly stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, there's Dead or Alive, which is an entire fighting series based around bouncy tits.
Yeah. So there's a whole programming team that focuses on the mathematics of jiggles. Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't think necessarily that's in there is like something that the company should be condemned, or if that you do it like for a laugh. I think it does say something about society that video has kind of gone viral, and like the worst possible people are like, yeah, stick it to her.
Well, I think also the idea is the idea that of the outrage as well. It's so outrageous.
Yeah,
I think people enjoy it's that's what I mean, like so much of what I feel like I am, because I laughed at it, but mainly not because I think
it's funny, because it's taboo. It's something that it's not. That's something that we don't often, or some would argue that we see it all too often. But I just don't understand how it's a silly person doing something on a video game. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like when I was young, I don't remember a video game surrounded by murder. What? Which the whole game is murder too, but
well, if you really want to go down to it, so was Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. You spend the entire time like mashing turtles. You're just mashing.
This is an accurate comparison.
Yeah, like 90% of video games involve the good guy killing a bunch of bad guys.
Like, remember that Legend of Zelda where you could put children in cages at the border? Like,
yeah, oh yeah. That's where it all happened. Those border guards, they grew up on Zelda, and they're like, it was so much fun chasing those chickens around.
All of this is
throwing them in cages.
All of this is to say is if my ex-girlfriend just hadn't left, if she hadn't have fooled around, I wouldn't have had to have these discussions with you degenerates. All right, I would have been out there, nuzzling my face in between her big bosoms, just being a dutiful husband,
I still would have been too fat to get on that roller coaster.
Making her climax at once, twice, maybe, hopefully, and then, going to work, taking my briefcase, going to my IT job, putting on my headset, listening to R. Kelly's The World's Greatest.
If my friends hadn't abandoned me, I wouldn't be in dark bars seeking the approval of strangers.
I see Arif like in this universe being like, hey, what are you watching on Twitch? That looks great.
Dude, did I tell you about the CEO of the IT company that in the middle of a meeting, one of the trainers looks to him, and he's like a 55-year-old guy. Yeah. And he was, what are you doing? Because he had his face buried in the phone while all of these like accountants and marketing people were trying to grab his attention with presentations, and he said, oh, what are you doing? I was just trying to find Pokemon. He's still playing Pokemon Go.
He had tried to get a Pidgeot,
Is that what yeah. He's like a 55-year-old man. He's a
born-again nerd.
It's fun. One of the last staff meetings that I went to when I was working at JDI, the big boss of the local office, whatever his title was, it ended with, do you guys have any questions? And then there was a pause, and he said, well, silence is consent, and then he walked out.
Oh my God!
That's
You
how
heard
the
it here on
meeting
St.
ended.
John Forward Radio. Irving says silence is consent.
Yeah, so we're at the end of the show. So we've got some stuff coming up. I'll officially announce it. The parking lot comedy show was such a success. The people at Foundations took notice of the amazing show happening outside their doorstep and demanded that we do show at Foundations. So No Jokes Barred is back, baby.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're going to be doing No Jokes Barred at Foundations on December 15th, and this time, just because we're so extreme and we're so hardcore, we needed to find a bar that nobody knew about. You can't find it is not listed on Google Maps. You can't see it from the street. You have to go into the parking lot behind the strip club and find it. It's called Foundations. So be there
Yeah,
December
man.
15th.
It's the real speakeasy. It's a 2018 speakeasy. It's not like one of those phony speakeasies, you know?
That's right. Setting up shop in the failed lesbian bar. That's where we belong.
That's where we lay our foundations.
That's right. No foundations barred.
So
Joke doesn't even make any sense.
Is there anything else?
I laughed anyways.
This Wednesday, I'm doing a show at the Abbey Cider House in Fredericton. That should be a rollicking good time.
John Nanette Forward.
I'm gonna get a free beet sandwich out of it. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna have a table to eat it on and everything, and then
demand it as you walk in
I
as
will.
you're part of your rider.
Friday on the 30th, I'm going up to Bathurst to do, I think the place is called Studio 2. Going on a road trip with Sam Laidman. Maybe we'll try to do a road trip podcast. We'll see if that works out. That'll probably just go on.
Toronto's own Sam Laidman.
That's right. And then the week after that, Arif Hussain, December 7th, is going to be headlining Uptown Comedy Deluxe. Brand new, fantastic start time at 10 p.m. And we're going to be in the back main room where the band usually plays instead of the upstairs this time because there's a Christmas party going on in the regular room, and that's more important. So, well, we're in the bigger room. I think I'd rather be in the back room, to be honest.
I think that's the room we should be in anyway.
Yeah. So, well, if it goes well, maybe we can just keep doing it back there. But anyway. You guys have anything else? You got the four-story walk-up podcast
Please rate
available
us
on things.
5 stars on iTunes and wherever podcasts are sold.
Hey, who else is on that show?
Which one?
The O'Leary's.
Brian Otter and Evan Steves.
Okay.
We've got a hard out at 11:30, so I'm only gonna have 2 middles.
Okay.
You guys have anything? We're running down to the wire. You got anything else to plug before we wrap up?
Sunday afternoons, the podcast. We already talked about that.
Laughter Dark, Brian.
Laughter Dark. That's right. It's my own show, and I messed that up. And I think I'm going to be on that No Jokes Barred show because.
Yes, that's still being put together. But you were. I've asked the original lineup for the canceled November show, and that includes Brian. Screw you, Arif.
Oh,
maybe we'll see.
What language
I'm
is
giving
that?
first crack at it to the people that were booked on the last one. So, anyway,
Arif loves second crack. So,
St. John Forward Radio,
gay sex.
Arif Hussain, Brian Godsoe. I'm John Forward. That's a show. Be good to each other.